What's going on, everybody? Good Sunday morning. Woodward Bets back in the house. And look at this guy. I mean, I guess I just have to toss it over to you. I mean, what a day. Big Michigan fan. Michigan finally gets the monkey off their back. Big win against Ohio State. A dominant win, I'll say. I mean, that was an impressive performance. 5 touchdowns for Hassan Haskins. I mean, just a huge win. The big house rocking, Harbaugh riding high. Scott, I see you're riding high as well, buddy. A hell of a win yesterday by Go Blue.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, it wasn't for that win yesterday, Chris. Man, there's a way I'm feeling this morning after sucking down a bunch of beers and hooting and hollering. I got to say, too, man, I must have ate like 3 edibles there. I was getting nervous, at certain points in the time, so I just kept popping them. I was having a good time, though. But, man, you're right. It's been a long time since we've seen the big house rocking like that. It was awesome. It was fun to watch. I mean, that's what college football is all about. Michigan played a great game, a lot of fun. But, yeah, just exciting to I mean, at least we got something to root for around here, Chris. I mean, damn. I mean, Lions suck. Everybody else sucks. I mean, hey, it's just fun to finally have Michigan pull through and get that win. Now, I was kind of hoping we would get to see your boys. I was going to text you, hey, man, if it works out, you want to go to Indy? But unfortunately, your boys crumbled there. But I thought, man, if the beer man and I get in the car and go to Indy together, that might be some trouble.
Yeah, I got another good buddy of mine is a huge Michigan fan. He had already bought ticket. In fact, he had 4 tickets already kind of lined up, thinking Wisconsin's going to make it. Let's go on a little road trip. So definitely was in the plans, so we would have worked you in for sure. It's a group of friends that you know as well, so we would have figured it out, roped it all together. But unfortunately, my Badgers couldn't figure it out and beat Minnesota. So Michigan and Iowa next week for the Big Ten championship down there in Indianapolis. So we will be breaking that down as we get closer to that as well. Nice win by Sparty yesterday as well. I know there was some COVID concerns. They were missing a lot of players. That line really started trending towards Penn State. So if you jumped on Sparty and got plus points or even that money line, that Michigan money line was good to me, buddy. I know that. There was a lot of promotional things, and we talk about it all the time. Sportsbooks offer boosts. DraftKings has some nice 25, 33% boosts on different bets. So make sure you guys are taking advantage of that. I mean, again, every dollar counts. So I certainly jumped on that and was glad to see Michigan pull it out. I felt good about them, and I know you did the same. So let's keep it rolling, though. If you guys are in the chat, good morning. We'd love to hear from you guys as well. So if you have questions today, whether it's DFS, season-long, betting, whatever it may be, comments, you want to tell us we suck, whatever it may be, you are there, we are here. Let's talk some football here today. So that is the plan to break down this NFL schedule. But Scott, we got to talk about this snow, first of all, before we're going to get to some football. But so I decided yesterday was, we always bust you up about raking leaves. Well, yesterday was I better get these leaves raked up before the snow hits. And, it's relentless. You rake leaves, 2 days later, they're back. So yesterday was kind of the final, all right, all the leaves have fallen. I'm going to rake them. Then I look at the grass. Okay, I got to cut the grass one more time. Literally out there cutting grass in the snow. So it's not a good day yesterday. Then right before the game, though, then I fire on the game. But the snow, hot and heavy yesterday. I mean, we were talking 3-4 inches here. And the drivers just get dumb. The first snow is always like people have never driven in the snow before. So saw quite a few, slipping, sliding, people in the ditch. And it's deep in the year, but I am not ready for the snow yet. I'm not a fan of the snow and the ice.
Yeah, me neither there, buddy. I mean, the older we get, as many sports as I played growing up, man, it's like when it gets cold like that, it starts reminding me of all those shoulder injuries, leg and knee injuries, and all that other shit. But you know what the worst part about it is, Chris? And I know you have a dog too, but my dog goes out the back door and sees it snows, and she's not running out there on the grass to do her business. She's going to shit right there in the middle of the driveway because she doesn't want to have to run out in the grass. But so then you know what happens with me, don't you? you get the old, hey, can you take the garbage and run it out there real quick? And I go running out there in the driveway, and of course, Chris, I got a big brown mess on the bottom of my shoe, as now my
Oh,
snow prints are now brown. I'm like, you know what? Here we go. Winter's here. It's like, man, I just wasn't used to having to look for those landmines in the middle of the damn driveway already.
yep, not ready for that either. That's always a fun surprise. Spring hits and it's just loaded up with the landmines. But speaking of landmines, we want to avoid those today in our bets, in our DFS contest. So we will walk you through each and every game, give you some of our thoughts, some of our favorite plays. We will end the show, as always, with our best bets segment. I want to say thank you to Detroit Beastie for hanging out over the last couple days, filling in for me. I greatly appreciate that. And a thank you to our boy Kareem behind the glass today, hanging out with us early on a Sunday morning. So, Scott, any other final thoughts here before we kind of dive into the games? We always talk about your whiteboard back there. So, we talked about it a little before the show started. So, why don't you give the people an idea if they did not hear some of the post game comments on this Michigan-Ohio State game from Jim Harbaugh? Explain to the people what's going on the whiteboard back there before we dive in.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. So at the end of the game there, he was asked by a reporter, about the comment that they made about slapping 100 up on Michigan. And Harbaugh replied, some people were born on third and think they hit a triple. So I thought that was pretty creative for the moment. So I thought that, it definitely was board material. So I had to put it up there. But that was good. I mean, obviously these two schools are going to give each other shit back and forth. But Chris, one thing I was going to mention earlier, and I just kind of came back to me here is man, Ohio State, they play right in their hands. They always beat us with these running quarterbacks. And all of a sudden they had a quarterback that just stood back there and threw the ball. And I thought, oh man, Hutchinson might get paid today. Him or Ojabo is going to get paid today if they get a bunch of sacks. And I'd be damned. That's exactly what I told Braylon and Ryan when we were in the office one day. I was like, man, one of these kids, if Michigan wins, they're going to get paid. And it looks like Haskins may have got himself paid a little bit as well. So we'll see what happened. But I think Hutchinson might be at the top of this NFL draft this year. I don't know if he'll end up with the Lions, but I did see a lot of that this week. But yeah, I had to definitely throw that quote up there, Chris. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that play where Hutchinson, I don't even know that he got a sack on it, but he trucked a lineman, basically ran right over him like he wasn't even there. I mean, he was impressive. Both those guys were impressive, and some of those Ohio State receivers pretty damn impressive as well. There were some great catches. So it was a fun game to watch, a fun atmosphere, and we'll see if Michigan can keep it rolling here in the Big Ten championship, potentially on their way to a college football playoff. But it's Sunday, Scott. We already had a little 3-day turkey day celebration here, so let's recap that real quick. I'm sure you and Beastie broke all that down, but just quick thoughts on the Lions. You've had a few days to kind of digest not only the food, but that performance from the Lions. I felt pretty good about the Lions potentially winning that game. Unfortunately, hit the money line there instead of the spread, which would have covered. But, it felt like they had it in hand, but you always get that feeling. And I'm not even a Lions fan, but I feel it along with you guys is when the fourth quarter started, I'm like, this game is going to end 16-14. Chicago's going to kick a field goal at the buzzer. That's how it always ends for this team. So, I mean, what are they doing wrong? Like, what is the deal with this team that they just cannot find a way to win games?
I mean, at this point, Chris, I think it's just the coaching. I think he's in over his head. I mean, there's just been some terrible play calls. I mean, the guy takes over the play calling, and it actually got a little bit worse as far as I was concerned. But, I mean, you just can't make some of the mistakes you made. He's trying to call timeouts he don't have. And, I mean, it's just a disaster. Total shit show, total circus. I got to imagine if you're like Bill Belichick and you're coming in to face the Lions, are you really concerned about being outcoached? I mean, I don't think you're concerned about being out schemed. I mean, it's just a shit show at this point. You can't blame. I don't blame Goff. I don't blame any of these players. I just really think it's it's just coaching. I mean, either they are blatantly trying to lose, Chris, or they're just that bad. I think it's a little bit more of they're that bad, but maybe a little bit of the, we're not trying all that hard to win kind of thing. But It's sad. I hope they at least get one win. I mean, it sucks, with their 0-16. It's just, I mean, nobody wants to see that, but it's just terrible football when you watch it. It's just there's no rhythm to their offense. There's just nothing there. It's hard to watch. It's just tough.
Yeah, some of the draw plays on third down, like at least attempt to get a damn first down. Like you're just giving them. Sometimes, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're deep. You want to just punt the ball away. Okay, but a lot of those run plays on third down, it's too conservative. Like, what do you have to lose? You're not scheduled to win any games. Why not just go balls to the wall? And that's your explanation. If you're worried about what the press is going to say and they're going to beat me up, hey, we're doing whatever we can to try to win games. And they did that when they went out and played the Rams. We saw all kinds of different trick plays. You literally have nothing to lose. Play that way. And we're just not seeing that here. So
Right.
I agree. It's a combination of a lot of factors. This was the game fans probably circled. Like, this is the one we should potentially win. I think there's a game with Atlanta coming up. Maybe that's a W. Green Bay is the last game of the season. Maybe they're resting people. That could be the win. But I'm with you. You don't want to see. Some people love seeing others in misery. They're the people that want to see the car accidents and this and that, and they all watch a train wreck. And we all have a little bit of that in us to some point. But we'd like to see them win at least one game. So we'll keep tabs on them. But let's get into today. The rest of Thanksgiving. I mean, nice win by the Raiders. Dallas once again. Up and down. You just can't get any consistency out of that team. And then Buffalo trucks New Orleans. I don't think that surprised anybody. So let's get into the games for today, Scott. We got Atlanta and Jacksonville leading us off here on today's show. Atlanta small favorites here in Jacksonville. Looks like Atlanta about -1, -2 at some spots. Total sitting around 46. So two pretty bad teams here, Scott. This is one of those, unless you're a fan of these teams, you're probably not watching this game. But fantasy-wise, I think there's some viable options here. James Robinson seemingly finds the end zone each and every week and gets nice odds on him as a touchdown scorer, about -110. Other side, Kyle Pitts. We'll see if Cordero Patterson returns. What are we doing in this game? Two bad teams, but I think we can pluck some plays out of this game.
Yeah, James Robinson, like you mentioned, Atlanta has just been pretty bad against giving up points to running backs. They're 27th in that category. But yeah, I think this one here is really the only standalone play for me is James Robinson. I'm not really interested in playing anything from the Atlanta side at this point. I mean, you mentioned Pitts, but he didn't really even make I wrote down 5 or 6 guys I was looking at. And I did not write down Kyle Pitts, but for season long, obviously you got to leave him in and play him. But I think Robinson, as far as DFS for me, is a guy that you look at. Maybe some Dan Arnold if you're really desperate for a tight end. But for me, Chris, it's just pretty much James Robinson. I think Jacksonville should be winning. The game script should be positive for Robinson here, and I could see him getting 20 carries, and he's fairly cheap on most sites.
Yeah, Robinson for me as well. Pitts is interesting, but just not a name I've clicked a lot in this whole season, to be honest with you. Just it seems to be more hype than actual production. Now, you like the matchup here. You like the fact that Ridley's still out if you're looking at Pitts, but he's not a guy who had that one game. Other than that, he just seems to be overpriced and overowned every week in daily fantasy. So I'm with you. Even if Patterson returns, what kind of role is he going to have? They're working in other running backs now. I don't trust any of the receivers here. I mean, Russell Gage is cheap and a good matchup. It's mostly Robinson for me, and I think both of these defenses are probably in play here in DFS as well. In fact, Atlanta, one of my favorite defenses on the day, on the cheap. So anything in the betting market, even this game betting-wise, Scott, I could see either team winning this game. I could see this being a shootout, so it shoots over. I could also see this being a 13-6 type of game. So I'm just not finding anything here that really stands out on the line or the total. You got anything in this one?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, just two bad teams you really can't get a gauge on. Jacksonville's been obviously playing a little bit better, but man, I'm not willing to bet on Uncle Herbs or anybody in this game here. So like I said, really, if anything, I'd pluck at James Robinson. As we've mentioned before, when you're kind of looking at a slate, there's games sometimes, Chris, I just like to cross off And this one has the potential definitely to be wiped away.
Yeah, less choices makes life a little bit easier. So I certainly agree with you there. Next game, we got Tennessee and the New England Patriots. We got New England -7 here. Pretty low total in this game. And injury is really the story here. We knew Julio Jones was out. We know Derrick Henry's out. Now you had A.J. Brown to the mix as well, was placed on IR yesterday, I believe. So Tennessee really coming in thin here, Scott. I mean, we're talking Dontrell Hilliard and Deonta Foreman as your running backs. Nick Westbrook Akina as your leading receiver. Patriots side sounds like all good news in that backfield. I know there's some questions with Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. Seems like they're both going to be able to give it a go along with tight end Hunter Henry. So this one has obviously moved with the A.J. Brown news. We're sitting at about New England -7 right now. I really like the Patriots in this spot. I just don't know where Tennessee is going to get offense here. I think you could probably make a case for an underplay as well, but give me the Patriots here. As far as DFS, I tend to stay away from the Patriots. They spread the ball around. I know we've had the Jacoby Myers, finally got the touchdown monkey off his back, so he's always intriguing on DraftKings. But with both those running backs in play, Brandon Bolden as well, Mac Jones has a limited ceiling. Pretty much this is a game for me in DFS that I'm mostly crossing off outside of potentially the New England defense.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots have been smashing. They've covered the last 5 in a row, just been whooping everybody 25-0, 45-7, 24-6, 54-13. I mean, they have quietly been one of the better offenses here recently, and they're really not getting any kind of love. But I mean, maybe Jacoby Myers is really interesting here. He got that touchdown finally in that game. Hunter Henry has scored every home game so far this year as well at the tight end spot for New England. So I think he's interesting. But yeah, Chris, I think New England's in a pretty smash spot here. I mean, they got to keep winning. Obviously, Buffalo already won. So I think Tennessee, with as beaten up as they are here, I think this is just too much for them to handle here going into Foxborough. So I think New England here should roll pretty easy. I got them winning by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I like them here as well. So it's -7 everywhere, but DraftKings, you get a -105 on that number. So again, the less juice you're paying, that saves you a few bucks. Every dollar counts here. So make sure that you're taking advantage of that. So I'm with you on New England, but DFS, again, it's pretty much New England D. Even that, they're kind of expensive. So this one, pretty much an easy avoid for me. Let's go to the next one. And this one, interesting. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, divisional matchup here in this game. We got Cincinnati sitting right around -4.5 as home favorites here. Total, again, pretty low in this game, right around 44. So this one, Scott, interesting. There's always a ton of names in these kind of games. You can make a case for Joe Mixon, who's been on fire, but a tough matchup here with Pittsburgh. Looks like they're going to get TJ Watt back on that defense, so that will certainly help. The passing game is always intriguing with Burrow, Chase, Boyd, Higgins. Other side, Najee Harris gets such a huge workload. Deontay Johnson, Freiermuth, the tight end with no Ebron, I'm pretty interested in. So is it more names here, or is it guys we can actually utilize in fantasy today?
I think you can actually utilize them in fantasy, especially both running backs. I know you mentioned Mixon's got a pretty tough draw today with the Steelers, but man, his workload has just been increasing. I think they're really starting to lean on him here coming into the tail end of the season. And Najee Harris, he's just another guy. I mean, he gets so many different opportunities, especially in the passing game. And Cincinnati's coughed up 76 receptions to running backs, which actually is an NFL high. So the last time they played, Chris, in week 3, Najee Harris had 19 targets, 14 catches. So I think that's interesting as well, especially on sites where like DK, where you get points for PPR. So yeah, I think there's a lot of guys here. Jamar Chase is a guy who obviously has been scoring quite a bit here recently. And then I think Chase Claypool is another guy you might be able to look at. And then Pat Freiermuth is another guy you might want to look at a tight end as well. So, Chris, I do think there's a lot of different plays here, but I don't know, Chris, as many plays as there are. If I'd be even really wanting to stack up this game, I think I might just try to pluck maybe a couple different pieces, maybe take a running back or two and throw them in some lineups. But Yeah, I don't think that I'm going to probably lean on much as the passing game as I think I'm going to lean on the run game here in this game.
Yeah, for me, I mentioned all the names. I do like Joe Mixon. We're talking 25 or more DraftKings points in 4 of the last 5 weeks. So, like you said, that workload is there. Pittsburgh just allowed 4 touchdowns to Austin Eckler last week, so it's not as scary of a matchup as it seems. And then I do like Pat Fryermuth as a cheap tight end option. When Ebron's in the lineup, it really hurts him. He only ran like 18 routes last week, had 7 targets on those routes. So you double that, you start to get back to what we saw over the past couple of weeks with Fryermuth. You're getting him at a value price point right now. So those are the two that stand out to me. The Cincinnati defense, also pretty cheap over on FanDuel. So they're in play. So those are the highlights for me. I'm probably going to avoid the Cincinnati passing game and the Pittsburgh passing game. Najee Harris, fine, like you said, a lot of volume, but I think there's other guys in that price that give you a little bit more ceiling and upside. So Mixon and Fryermuth for me. Any bets here, Scott? This one kind of trending down. I'm seeing a lot of Cincinnati minus 3.5 out there right now. Total on its way down as well, 43.5. So any thoughts on this number here?
Well, I will say one thing, Chris. The Steelers are 16-4-2 against the spread in their last 22 meetings in Cincinnati. So obviously, as a division game here, they have just owned the Bengals in Cincinnati, even against the spread. So, we see Mike Smith in the chat here, Chris. He's saying the Bengals are going to lose to the Steelers here today. And I think I'm going to tend to agree with him for some. I just think the Steelers are just built a little bit. I think Najee Harris is gonna run all over him here today. And I even think Dusty Ben might have a decent game. But I do think this one may be a little bit lower scoring. Like I said, I think there's going to be a little bit more running opportunities in this game. I don't like this game to have a bunch of points scored, but I do think the Pittsburgh could win this game here.
Yeah, this is another avoid for me in the betting markets. I'd probably side with Pittsburgh if I have to pick something, but this is one I'm just going to stay away from. Divisional games can sometimes get ugly. These teams know each other so well. So I'm going to avoid this one as far as a bet going. Again, Mixon and Fryermuth being guys that I want to play this week. All right, speaking of ugly, this one is not for the faint of heart, Scott. Jets and Texans. I don't know that we could schedule up a worse matchup. Maybe we get the Lions somehow playing one of these teams, but an ugly, ugly game here. But again, sometimes these ugly games that nobody wants to watch, there are plays from these games. So as far as the betting markets go, looks like mostly Houston minus 2.5. So you're under that 3-point threshold. Total anywhere from 44.5 to 45.5. So what do we got in this one? Again, Brandon Cooks is generally the only name with Houston. I know you talked some Tyrod Taylor. Jets side, no Corey Davis. So I think you can make a case for Elijah Moore. I think Jamison Crowder, very intriguing. And even that backfield without Michael Carter, a guy like Ty Johnson becomes intriguing here. So as ugly as this game is, I think you can pluck some value pieces out of this to make lineup building a little bit easier this week.
Yeah, there's definitely value. Tyrod Taylor is only like 5K on DK. He's a guy that you could obviously run it in. The Jets are just been terrible against anybody running the football. So I think that's interesting. You mentioned with Cooks. I think Cooks is interesting today. And then you did mention Elijah Moore. I really like him. He's been pretty hot lately, especially the last few weeks. He's been at the top of the wide receivers in points. So, this game is interesting for me. I know you and I were talking and, thinking, if I had a couple lineups, maybe I would build a Tyrod Taylor, maybe go with the defense and then throw in Cooks and then maybe bounce it back with Elijah Moore and then try to surround it with some big name pieces and spend up on some salary. But, man, Chris, it's just so scary to me. You look at Houston's game log. They scored 22 against Tennessee. They only scored 9 against Miami. They scored 22 against the Rams, then 5 against Arizona, 3 against Indy. They got shut out against Buffalo, 9 against Carolina. They haven't scored over 30 points really all season. They did against Jacksonville in September, but, man, it's just kind of scary. I just feel like I'm playing for a floor at that point. So more I talk about it, maybe the upside isn't there, but maybe a couple pieces here or there if you want to build – fill out your lineup. Maybe that's the way to go. Maybe even playing Tyrod Taylor by himself wouldn't be bad if you want to punt at like a quarterback position. But yeah, Chris, I think if you get too much of this game here, I think you're really really gambling for a stinker.
Yeah, I don't know about the stack. So I'm fine with one piece on each side, a little mini correlation, whether it's you roll with a Ty Johnson and a Brandon Cooks. Again, I like Crowder. I think Crowder's going to go overlooked here. I think a lot of people are going to kind of flock to Elijah Moore, who's been great, no doubt. The kid, the future is bright for Elijah Moore. We know that. But I think Crowder going to be a very, very low-owned option today that no one wants to play. So I really like him. And I'm going to disagree a little bit. I think if you're going to go with Tyrod Taylor, then you almost have to go with Brandon Cooks. He has just such a massive target share that's the guy that he's looking for. So I understand the thought process. Some of these running quarterbacks, and he's not as mobile as maybe he was in his younger days or as some of these other guys. But I think Cooks is certainly the guy that's going to see the majority of those looks here. So any thoughts on this spread, on this total? I'm leaning it over here, Scott. I think two ugly teams, two bad defenses. The Jets get Zach Wilson back. That could be good or bad. We've certainly seen the good in the preseason and the bad in the regular season, but I think there'll be a little bit more scoring here than this number indicates. So it's not going to make best bets. I know that, but I do like the over here in this game. What do you got on this one?
Yeah, I do like the over. I mean, especially as low as it is. If it was up and, getting closer to 50, I think I would be a little bit worried, but I can almost get it, but almost a touchdown less than that. So I do like that. So yeah, I would side to go with the over here just because both teams have been so bad defensively. I mean, the Jets, you look at their defensive rank, they're 32nd in total yards, 32nd in pass yards, 29 in rush yards, 32nd in points scored. I mean, they're just god awful. You look at the other side, 30th total yards, 26 pass yards, 30th rush yards, 30th point scored. I mean, we got two of the three worst defenses in all of football in this game. So to get a total at 44, Chris, I like it. I mean, it's definitely got a good opportunity to go over just because the defenses are so bad. It has nothing to do with those offenses, though.
All right, let's go to another game. Pretty low total in this one as well. We got Carolina and Miami. Spread-wise, we're talking anywhere from -1.5 at BetMGM all the way to 2.5 at Bet Rivers. So a pretty, I'd say a wide spread, but you generally don't see even a 1-point difference between these books. So depending on who you like, you want to shop around. Another low total, like I mentioned, sitting right around 42.5 here. So the big story here, Cam Newton, Scott, yes or no? I mean, Christian McCaffrey, if you can get him, sure. I think he's a phenomenal play. Maybe he gets a little bit overlooked today with some of the other running backs in play. The question here is Cam, though. You mentioned Tyrod Taylor being cheap on DraftKings. Cam is super cheap there once again, coming off a pretty good game. On the Miami side, it's a Myles Gaskin question, yes or no? So Cam on one side, Gaskin on the other. What are we doing on those two guys?
It's hard for me to play Cam. I mean, I looked at him last week here. You know what, Chris? This is such a trap game for Carolina. I mean, they were so into beating Ron Rivera's old team, the Washington football team last week. I mean, this one here has got Miami Dolphins for me written all over it. I mean, this is just a spot here that the Dolphins could win. They're on a 3-game winning streak. So, Cam is it's not like he's an MVP candidate. I mean, let's get that straight. I mean, he does have some really good pieces around him. McCaffrey's just so expensive to play. I think he's better off on a site like DK than he actually is on a site like FanDuel. But I don't think I'm going to be in on Cam. I think there's some other spots here. I don't think this game has really got the upside points that I want to see. In Gaskin, I think that's another interesting one, but Carolina's been so tough against the run. They've only given up the fourth least amount of points to running backs here. I don't really project Gaskins to score a touchdown, so I wouldn't want to use him on FanDuel. But, I think people are going to look at what Gaskins did the week before. I mean, and he did face the Jets. So I'm just not a fan. I'm not going to go there with Gaskins today. I think there's some other spots here that I'm going to look at. But if of the two that you asked me, I think I'd like Cam a little bit better than Gaskins if I had to play him. but I think I'd have to be into maybe my handful, maybe 10 teams or so before I'd even consider rostering Cam today.
I'm with you on Cam. I don't know that I'll go there. Again, DraftKings would be the play. FanDuel, there's just too many other options to pay that kind of price tag on Cam Newton. I mean, he's priced right around, say, Justin Herbert. I'd much rather have, but at 5,600 on DraftKings, I am intrigued at that price. Gaskin, I'm a little bit more optimistic than you. Carolina has been good this season against running backs over the last 4 weeks. If you break it down a little bit more, though, 11th most fantasy points allowed. He's getting a workload. His targets are always there with their lack of weaponry, and it's really only Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki with some of the injuries there. So he's targeted a lot out of the backfield, and if they're going to win this game, he's going to have to be a big part of that. So it's a workhorse running back at a discounted price, even in a tougher matchup. So I, again, like him a little bit more than you. As far as these numbers, spread, total, I agree that this feels like somewhat of a trap. That being said, I don't want to back Miami in the spot either. A total feels right on. I don't see any edge there either. So another pass. And, people are looking for takes and picks and bets. And we always talk about find the 2, 3, 4 bets that you like. You don't want to bet on every single game. There's not always an edge in every single game. So we try to find edges early in the week, jump on some of that stuff. And then Sunday, we always come back with a few best bets. There is nothing in this game that I see as best bet quality. Maybe you disagree, Scott. Anything here you're really liking on the spread or this total?
Yeah, I think I mean, I'd lean Miami if anything, if I had to. But yeah, I think I agree with you though. The edge I think is gone. I mean, Miami started out -1. They're up to getting 2.5. I mean, if you want Miami, I think I would just pretty much play the money line at this point. But I mean, I just think, especially with the public, I mean, 61% of the money is coming in on Carolina. So there are times when, I'm not sure, Chris. I just usually like to go against the public, especially when it's up in that 60-70% range. So especially with such a low spread. And Chris, I don't know if it's still relevant anymore, but there used to always be a kind of little saying in the betting world that if a home team was getting 2.5 points, that they actually won the game outright, like 87 or 88% of the time. So, that 2.5 rule is something that my friends and we always kind of joke about. Team getting 2.5 points at home today was usually, just an automatic. We would just press the button no matter who it was and kind of giggle about it. And it always did seem to pan out. But that's something I did notice was that 2.5 rule there on that game.
Yeah, I think if you're going to go Miami, you might as well go the money line. I agree. That backfired on me with the Lions on Thanksgiving. Took the money line there, but I think that is the way to go. Or you throw in a teaser. You cross that 3 and that 7 mark if you go at Miami and the points. So that's always a way to go as well. You find a team at 2.5. You want to throw them in a teaser. So we had a question here before we leave this game. EFOG in the chat wanted to know, should he start Cam Newton over Aaron Rodgers, 12-man PPR league? I'm still leaning Rodgers here, Scott. I don't, I know he's dealing with some injuries here, and maybe you disagree on this one, but it's close. But I'm still going to go with Aaron Rodgers this week against the Rams.
Yeah, I definitely got to go with Aaron Rodgers. You know what? I'm a guy, Chris. If I take a guy high up in a draft, I mean, even though sometimes matchups may be a little bit better, it's just so aggravating when you swap out your horse for a guy that maybe has a better matchup and then it doesn't pan out, and you just then you end up telling yourself you just knew better than that. So to me, I would just ride with my horse. Aaron Rodgers got you there, and I'd let him keep getting you to where you need to go. So I wouldn't hop off the Aaron Rodgers train.
All right, we're in agreement on that one. Start Aaron Rodgers. If you guys are out there, you're listening, you have any questions, please feel free to fire them off there in the chat, whether it's season-long betting, DFS, whatever it may be. We are here to take those questions. Next game, Scott, one of the games of the week, honestly, Tampa Bay and a red-hot Indianapolis team. Mostly Tampa -3 out there. There is a -105 at DraftKings and at Bet Rivers, so if you're on Tampa, take advantage of that. +3 at -108 at FanDuel right now. So those are the options for you. Depending on what side you're on, you could save a few points on the juice there, Scott. But this game certainly one you're going to want some exposure to. So Tom Brady, you have a narrow tree without Antonio Brown. So you could pair him with Godwin, with Evans, with both. Gronk is kind of expensive, but he's always intriguing. Or you can always go Leonard Fournette. Other side, the big question is, can we play Jonathan Taylor in this matchup? You know, we talked about his matchup with Buffalo. He went out and smashed the slate in a tough matchup. This is about as tough as it gets. So this is strength on strength. A great Indianapolis run game and offensive line, a tremendous defensive front for the Tampa Bay Bucs. So how do we handle Jonathan Taylor? Who do you want to stack Brady with? I know Michael Pittman, a guy that we're both liking this week as well. So this one is fun. It's just a matter of, can we play Jonathan Taylor? I think is the tough question here at his elevated price point.
Yeah, I don't think I can play Jonathan Taylor here today. I mean, man, I think the Colts are in a pretty bad spot. I think this is another letdown spot for the Colts here. I mean, after just smashing the Bills, you got to know they had to be up for that one there. And the Buccaneers ended their 2-game losing streak by trouncing the Giants. So I think the Buccaneers are going to be in a little bit better spot here mentally. I mean, they're number 2 team against the run too. So I think this is going to be a game, Chris, where it's going to be more of a pass funnel type offense for both teams. I think both teams are going to throw a little bit more. I actually think, Chris, today, if you're going to stack up this game, I do not mind using Hines a little bit in this game as well. I know that sounds crazy, but I mean, you're going to get them at a low price. I think they're going to be down. They're going to have to throw the ball a little bit. And we've seen this time and time again before where, you know, you get that team that's down, you know, those opportunities are going to be there for the dump offs and even some late type action as well if they're really getting smashed. But Chris, I really like the side with Tom Brady, as you mentioned. I mean, you got no Brown. I think Godwin's in a good spot. Evans is a good spot. Gronk's only 4,400 on DK, which isn't too bad. So I definitely like him there. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor, for me, I'm going to pass, even though he has scored in 8 straight games. So he obviously is without Derrick Henry. He's the number 1 running back for all of fantasy, but I'm going to stay away from the recency bias here, Chris, with all the points that he just scored. I'm not going to chase it. And I think for me today, I'm going to fade Jonathan Taylor.
All right, I'm going to play him, and I don't think there's going to be a ton of ownership on him. You would think coming off 51 fantasy points that people would be a lot more optimistic, but the price is up. The matchup's tough. These are the kind of spots where I like to go to a guy like Taylor. No one's going to want to pay that price for him this week when they can go to Christian McCaffrey in a much better matchup. So I think a stack where it gets expensive, no doubt. You start stacking Brady and any of these pass catchers, you try to run it back with a Jonathan Taylor, almost impossible on DraftKings. You can pull it off on FanDuel, but Brady feels like a guy, cash games, you can feel pretty good about him. We'll talk about some cheaper guys, but I think he's certainly one of the best quarterback options today. I prefer Godwin if we're talking Tampa Bay receivers. I don't mind Evans. I don't mind the double stack there. And you mentioned Gronk on DraftKings. FanDuel, he's expensive. So if you want to get a little bit different, paying up sometimes at a price that seems too high can be a way to be contrarian as well. So in Indy, I am going to play some Taylor along with Michael Pittman. I don't hate the Hines call, especially on DraftKings. If they're playing from behind, he enters the equation, which can kind of ding Jonathan Taylor a little bit. So what about a bet here, Scott? Again, Tampa -3 at most shops, 53-ish on the total, some 52.5s out there. Any thoughts here? You seem to be on the Tampa Bay side of things here.
Yeah, I like the over. I'm going to lean the over in this one here. I like the over in the first half. I like the over in the game. I think this game here is going to have all kinds of points. I think both teams at some point are just going to abandon the run, especially if Tampa Bay gets out. I think you're just going to see the ball getting slung all around all around Lucas Oil Stadium today. So I'm going to roll with the over.
All right, this is one I'm staying away from as well. I'm excited to watch this one, but again, I could see either team winning this game. I could see a shootout. I could see a scenario where it's kind of uglier than we thought. And both these teams are running the ball. The clock's running. So you start trying to pick something from this game. I'm mostly going to avoid this one, but stacking it a lot of different ways in fantasy this week. Next game, Scott, we got Philadelphia and the Giants, NFC East battle here. Philadelphia is the favorite in this one, sitting right around 4, at most 3.5. for the most part. At most places, a 4 on DraftKings if you like the Giants. Total right around 45.5, 46 here. So Philly side, Jalen Hurts, always an option with his rushing ability. Miles Sanders, super cheap on FanDuel this week. Giants side, sounds like Saquon Barkley's going to be back in that lineup in their first game without Jason Garrett. So maybe this offense spreads its wings a little bit. We always talk about how many players they have on that offense, but unfortunately it's captained by Daniel Jones. It tends to be the problem. So a divisional game, does that scare you in this one, or are you plucking some plays out of here?
I mean, the Giants play way better at home, but I still think there's really not too much there that I'm interested in. I mean, there are some injuries. Barkley's interesting. I thought about Barkley, but I just think this is a game here that Philadelphia should be winning. I think Philadelphia, especially with the way Dallas has been playing, I mean, they got to be looking at possibly taking the lead there in that division. I do like some Miles Sanders here, though, especially with Jordan Howard being out. That Giant defense is 28th in giving up points to running backs. So I think Miles Sanders here is in a pretty good spot. Maybe like a Devontae Smith. I'm actually using him in a couple of my season-long leagues. He scored the last 3 times. So I'm not on Devontae and DFS aspects. I think this game is going to be pretty low scoring, but I do have some interest in both running backs. But for me, I think Miles Sanders would be the guy that I'd go to in this game.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite option as well. You mentioned no Jordan Howard this week. So Boston Scott will work in, and steal some of that passing game work. But Sanders looked pretty good in his return in a tough matchup against New Orleans. I think Dallas Goedert remains a tight end option. Ugly position today with no Kelsey, no Waller. We have Kittle coming up we'll talk about, but you're missing some of the studs there. So it's less competition. If you go with a guy like Goddard, the ceiling not as high. He doesn't have to try to compete with Kelsey and Waller. So I think he's in play. And I'm mostly hands off on this Giants team, Scott. Just trying to pick through those receivers and who is it going to be on in any given week. And even Barkley, this Philadelphia defense playing well. So intrigued by Barkley, but I'll mostly stay away from the Giants. Give me some Sanders, a little bit of Goddard here. Any bets for you here? This is another game I'm going to avoid. Everything seems right on as far as spread goes, as far as the total goes. I could see this being a spot where Philadelphia kind of disappoints. That's generally kind of their MO. As soon as they're riding high, they tend to trip up in a game like this. But this is just one I think there's better spots to attack betting-wise, so I'm going to avoid this one. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to side with our boy here, D-Map Zoom, in the chat, Chris, today. Says Philly over the Giants. Never trust the Giants. But I think I'm going to have to agree. The road team's 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 meetings. So I'm going to look at I think I'm going to look at the Eagles here. I just think Miles Sanders and the boys run it up against the Giants. I don't like that hook, though, but I do think that hook being that 3.5. But I think I like Miles Sanders, and I think this game will probably be a little bit lower scoring today.
All right, let's get into the afternoon window here. Looks like a 3-game 4:30 slate here. So we'll start with the Chargers and the Denver Broncos. Chargers -2.5. At most spots, Scott, this one seems to be trending to 3, though. There are some 3s there. Most of the 2.5s are sitting at 115, -120. That's generally a good indicator that thing is going to jump to 3. So some people prefer paying the extra juice, keeping it at 2.5 if you're on the Chargers. Some people will just let it go to 3 and pay the standard 110. Maybe you can find some 105. So just depends. I don't really have a strong take on that. Generally, I'd rather keep it under 3. Pay a little bit more if you can get it at a -115. As far as the total in this one, looks like we're sitting 47 at most places, 47.5 at one spot. So thoughts here. I do have some strong takes on this game, but I'm gonna turn it over to you. Chargers, obviously, a lot of ways you can go. Austin Eckler coming off a massive game. Doesn't look like he's going to be overly owned today in DFS. Keenan Allen, going to be very popular in DFS. He's been a target monster here over the last month. Herbert's playing well. You can always go with a Mike Williams. So lots of ways you can go on the Chargers. Denver, it's a little tougher. You got a split backfield. You got wide receivers that are kind of eating into each other. Yeah, Noah Fant in a good matchup, but again, you're competing with Judy Sutton in a low volume passing game. So mostly Chargers for me here as far as DFS goes. And Eckler feels like a guy that's going to go overlooked here, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I mean, Eckler's the number 2 fantasy back, right behind Jonathan Taylor, especially after his monster week last week. But I think this game here, Chris, is could be a game that we don't see all the fireworks that a lot of people are expecting. Denver's pretty good against the pass, so we'll see how that shakes out. I mean, especially them going into Denver. Just kind of wanting to look at here if I could get a gauge what the weather may be. It looks like 19 degree. No, actually, it's going to be 63. I thought it was going to be 19. I was going to say, ooh, it's pretty cold like it is here. So I generally don't like to play passing teams when it's cold, but Chris, this one's got an over-under of 47. And for me, I just think that seems to be a little bit too high here. 68% of the money is coming in on the Chargers. But Chris, man, my instincts are telling me that this is just a spot here. It looks too good if you're a Charger bettor. And I think Denver here may be the play.
Yeah, I really like the Chargers here. So I hope I'm not stepping into the trap. That's certainly the concern that, like you just mentioned, that it feels like this line should be a little bit higher, but I do like the way they're playing. Denver, never an easy place to go into. And you mentioned that weather. How the hell is it 63 in the Rocky Mountains and it's about 15 here in Michigan? So
Right.
seems a little bass backwards on that one, but give me the Chargers here in this one. Grant, I'll grab the 2.5, so where I can keep it under that field goal. And I love them in fantasy. Eckler, even paired with the Chargers defense, so they're pretty cheap on FanDuel, or the stack with Herbert. You can include Eckler in those stacks too. He does so much in the passing game, and you really capture all the touchdowns there. So all Chargers for me here, and I love them at -2 as well. Next game, Scott, we got Minnesota and the San Francisco 49ers. Looks like another fun game here. Niners up to -3.5 at most places. There are some threes out there as well. Total, another high total game here. Mostly 49s in the betting market. So, Scott, this one going to be fun as well. Sounds like Elijah Mitchell going to give it a go. So he's an option. The passing game with Garoppolo, Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, Kittle. A lot of ways you can stack this one. Minnesota's intriguing as well. I mean, it's a very limited target tree with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and of course, Dalvin Cook at the running back position. So star-studded game here, Scott. Who stands out on these two teams for you?
I'll tell you who's been standing out for me and with the 49ers, and that's Deebo Samuel. I mean, they're using him in all aspects of the game. They're letting him run the ball. They're throwing it to him. I mean, to me, he's been the main part of their offense. So I think he's a guy you definitely got to consider. I mean, and then, obviously Justin Jefferson, he's just been smashing, as you mentioned, with Dalvin Cook. I think this game here is another game here that, we could see quite a bit of points being scored. I'd like to really see what's going to happen with Elijah Mitchell. I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of scary. It kind of takes the running backs out of this game for San Fran because you're really not too sure, who's going to get those carries there. But this game here is sitting at -3. I think the spread is right. Over under went from 48 up to 49. I mean, this game's interesting for sure as far as the DFS aspect. I think this game here actually just kind of flipping through. I wanted to say it's the second highest total of the day, and yes, it is. So this one here, the second highest total, sitting behind that Tampa and Indy game. So Chris, I think this is one I think a few people are going to pivot to. I think you're going to see some teams built with Cousins, and then you're going to see the Jefferson. You're going to see the bounce back with maybe the Kittle or the Deebo Samuel. So, I do like this game as far as DFS. I think Cousins is a little bit more riskier here. I don't think I could play some Garoppolo, but I do like some pieces like you mentioned before, maybe like a mini correlation, mini stack here of this game.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more optimistic on Garoppolo. I know it's a low volume passing game, but I like him stacked with Debo, like you mentioned, or a double stack with Kittle. If you need some savings, Ayuk has been great. And I do like Elijah Mitchell. I get the concerns, but anytime that he's been in the lineup, he's been the primary running back. And Jeff Wilson certainly didn't do anything to steal that job away last week. So if I'm going to get a low-owned Elijah Mitchell in that late slate, I'm certainly going to take advantage of that. Minnesota, to me, it's Jefferson, it's Cook. I think you could play both as run back options. on a San Francisco lineup. Thielen has become very touchdown dependent, so he's less of an option, but always has that upside to pop for some touchdowns. Any bets here, Scott? It sounded like an over for you. This one, another avoid for me. This one will be fun. I can't wait to see it. I'm going to be stacking it. But betting wise, I'm going to be avoiding this one. You got anything that's standing out on the spread or the total here?
I actually going to lean toward the 49ers here in this game. I think the 49ers at home, they've been playing really well. I just think I think they're in a better spot here. So I'm going to lean 49ers, but probably not going to make my best bet sheet.
All right, last game here. We have the Rams and the Green Bay Packers, and you want to talk about some line movement here, Scott. This one has swung big time. It started out Green Bay -1.5. We're all the way to the Rams -2.5 at some places. Now, there's some 1.5s, there's some 2s, so this one is all over the board. Total is dipped as well, down to 47. Checking the weather. Doesn't look like anything crazy. Cold, but 30. So nothing out of the ordinary in Green Bay. So it's not a snow game. I know there's some concerns with Aaron Rodgers and his toe. He had the whole COVID toe issue. Is he going to be 100%? They're optimistic Aaron Jones can play. There's other stories saying they have a bye next week. Why bring him back? So I think injuries are really the story here on the Green Bay side. That's probably what's swinging this line here. So thoughts on this one to wrap us up here, Rams and Green Bay?
Yeah, I want to really know what's going on with Aaron Jones, because if Aaron Jones is out, I think A.J. Dillon is in a pretty good spot, especially for the price that you're going to get him on the sites out there. But, I mean, you're going to look at here, I mean, obviously, who's going to get Jalen Ramsey on that Green Bay side? They move around Devontae Adams so much. It just kind of makes you wonder if MVS is going to see a piece of them. But this game here is interesting for me. The Rams and Matt Stafford here going in, I think they're going to, obviously with them getting rid of Beckham, getting rid of Jackson. I think Beckham is a guy that may be interesting today as a number 3 receiver. Maybe a little Van Jefferson. Obviously, Cooper Kupp has been somebody that has been quiet, but he's got 9 targets his last 10 out of 10 games. So, I mean, that guy there is in play. But, I mean, the weather here scares me, Chris. I get scared when it's super cold. I don't like playing teams, and I'm not looking for an upside in a game that's so cold. So, to me, A.J. Dillon is definitely a guy that I'm going to be interested in, but I'm kind of hoping Jones sits this game out.
Yeah, that one sounds like it's going to be a game time call, so we're going to have to kind of wait. If Jones is in there, I think you could play Dillon if you're running a ton of lineups, but it really zaps a lot of the upside out of both of them. The one guy you named there that's intriguing on the other side is Van Jefferson. I mean, Cooper Kupp's the easy one. If you can fit him, no problem there. Beckham, you could play the revenge narrative. Green Bay offered him pennies on the dollar. These were the 2 teams that were after him, so maybe there's a little extra motivation there. But Van Jefferson, pretty cheap out there. So I'm finding myself doing a lot of A.J. Dillon with Van Jefferson on the other side, Scott. A little mini correlation of this game here. But as far as betting goes, give me Green Bay here. Even with the injury, Rodgers sounds like he's going to play. So some stats for you here. You want to talk some trends. Green Bay, 9-1 against the spread over their last 10 games overall. They've been a covering machine, 8-2 against the spread over their last 10 at Lambeau Field. So they play so well at home. The Rams kind of on a slide here. I think Green Bay wins this game. So even if you can get a nice little money line number, we talked about those low spreads, going that route. But I really like the Packers here at home in the spot.
Yeah, I mean, the Packers, they played in the playoffs last year, and they won at home 32-18. I'm with you here, Chris. I think the Packers are in a really good spot. I like him at home. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to want to him and Stafford have faced each other, obviously being division foes for quite some time. So Stafford's obviously used to coming up here and playing in this cold. It won't be anything new for him. But I got to imagine that Aaron Rodgers and the Packers here are going to be a little bit too much for the Rams to handle here in this cold weather.
So I'm seeing some plus 115s on the money line at DraftKings and at PointsBet. So those would be the highest Green Bay money lines out there. So don't hate that one. at all. So, Scott, let's kind of go over some of our favorite plays here for the week. I know Easy's in the chat asking about stacks. If you guys are in the chat, before we head out here for week 12, let us know if you have any final questions there. E in the chat wanted to know Noah Fant or Dallas Goedert. That's Goddard for me, Scott. Agree, disagree?
Yeah, I agree with you there.
All right, let's give
agree.
some of our top. Let's give some top plays here at the different positions. So, who are we loading up on in DFS? Maybe some top stacks, and then we'll end with our best bets here for Week 12. What do you got?
I mean, as far as stacks go, Chris, I'm going to look at that Tampa Bay in that Indy game. I think I'm going to try to build some teams here with some, obviously, from Tom Brady. Probably look at adding some Godwin, and then maybe even some Gronk in that. I don't mind that San Francisco and Minnesota game as a stack, but just kind of looking at the different sites here. I mean, if you want to look at like DraftKings for me. You got Tom Brady. I like Tyrod Taylor as a cheap quarterback. You can even use some Justin Herbert as well, maybe some running backs. Kind of looking at McCaffrey's always a big guy. Miles Sanders I like. A.J. Dillon, especially if Jones is out, and definitely like some James Robinson as well.
Yeah, as far as stacks go, that the Colts Indy obviously is the one a lot of people are going to stack. So if you're going that route, try to get a little bit different. I agree on Minnesota and San Francisco, and I think the Chargers could be the stack that's a little bit sneaky here this week, along with some mini stacks in that Minnesota and the Rams game. That one could have some back and forth appeal. Scott, let's wrap it up with our best bets here for Week 12 in the NFL. Give the people some winners here. What do we got?
Well, Chris, I'm going to steal your team here because I know you also like the Packers, but I'm going to roll with the Packers. I really like them here. And then I'm going to roll with the over in that Colts and Bucks game. And then I'm going to throw in one here that I know you said you didn't like, but I'm also going to take Miami at home getting the points in the 2.5. I'm going to roll with my 2.5 rule.
All right, I got two spreads for you. One money line. I'm going to go with Green Bay, so we're both on them again. Plus 115 is out there, so grab that while you can. I'm going to go with New England, -7 here at home. They've been dominant. I just don't know how Tennessee is going to put up any kind of offense here. Rolling out journeymen like Deonta Foreman and young guys like Nick Westbrook, Akina. I just don't see them scoring many points here. So give me New England, and I'm going to go with the Chargers. So I like them a lot. If you can get them at 2.5, fine. I'm fine with the 3 here as well. I just think they're the much better team, even on the road. Tough place to play in Denver. I like the LA Chargers. So Patriots -7, Chargers -2.5 or -3. Grab the 2.5 while you can. And the Green Bay Packers money line for me. And you waving that money says it all, buddy. Final thoughts for the people here. Week 12. What do we got?
Man, we got to wave ourselves off. We're going to be so hot today. We're going to win. And Chris, as you know, I've been kind of mentioning I'm in that live final today on DK, so I need to get my ass up there in that top 75 because if so, Chris, we get to go down to the beach, sit back, drink some beers, and get the hell out of this cold weather. So a little bit added bonus. Maybe I should make my lineup outside, freeze my ass off, and then maybe that would give me some motivation to get over that line. But yeah, I'm sure we'll be texting back and forth today. We're going to have some fun. It's been a great weekend so far. So hopefully we can stack up the money and come back for the people with some lunch money tomorrow.
There you go. I like it. So best of luck to you. We'll be definitely following that along. Maybe you can share the link at Woodward Bets on Twitter, and everybody can follow along with your King of the Beach sweat. Again, got to come in the top 75 today to move on to the actual beach. So we are pulling for you there. And best of luck to everybody out there. We appreciate you guys getting up early and hanging out with us here. Trying to see if there's any other questions. Looks like we got everything. So, again, thank you to everybody for watching the show, for supporting us. Head over to @Woodward Bets on Twitter if you have not done that yet. And best of luck with your DFS and your bets today. For Scott, for our boy Kareem behind the glass, and for the money gun, shooting winners everywhere. I am Bear. We are Woodward Bets. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the games today, and we'll see you tomorrow.